Yeah, my name is Duery Smith. I worked my entire career in Ladder 136, and I did over 20 years there. Came in the early 80s, and unfortunately, I got hurt in 2003 and went roof at a job, and well, shaft actually. And as a result, after I learned how to walk again, I retired in 2004. I was at a pretty decent fire. One time, I think a third alarm or something. And we're in a precarious situation on the roof, and I was attempting to get an additional ladder up there in the event that we had to all evacuate at one time. Had like 6, 7 guys on the roof, and one ladder, you know. So there was a Bassett building to the left, which was a little higher, but it was an escape route. So I figured we got a portable up there. We'll be able to, some guys can go this way, some guys can go this way if necessary. And in a smoke condition, you know, I deviated from ladder 1 and 3, which says that the way on the roof is the way off the roof. I deviated from that. And in smoke condition, I found myself in a shaft. It was not fun. And leaving the fire department the way I did was not my plan. And I remember I went through a state of depression. I was in a wheelchair. I shattered both of my feet. I, had to learn how to walk again, the whole nine. And a couple of guys came by and got me, grabbed me up. I was all disheveled, wasn't shaving, wasn't doing nothing. And they took me to the barber shop to clean up. And it's ironic, I'm sitting there and I'm looking across the street at a 5-story walk-up brick. And I got the apron on and I'm looking across the street and the windows got dark all of a sudden. I said, that's a job, you know? And sure enough, it was the old pane windows, wasn't the modern windows. And as a result, they let loose, boom, boom. And I found myself, I had the space boots on. That's the only way I was able to walk with the space boots. And found myself getting up out of the chair and walking across the street. And I said to myself, what are you doing? You know, this is crazy. You'll get yourself killed or somebody will get killed trying to get you out of there. It was a good job. I was blowing out the windows. So I 911, gave the size up, 1075, 5-story, top floor fire, boom, 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 they came and knocked it out. But that's how much I missed it, you know, because like this job, you know, is like a calling. It's like, it's not for everybody. You know, you got to really want to do this job to do it right, you know. And I was fortunate enough to be in a busy company, learned from some great guys. And we were in the top 10 for like the first 10 years I was there in occupied structural work. And, you know, so it's in your blood, you know, and when that's no longer pumping through your veins, you kind of miss it, you know, you feel deprived of something, but you find other things to do to fill that void. And I was fortunate enough to be active in the organization and some other things as far as our people are concerned that allow me to continue to have that drive to do something to contribute to the community, because it's all about the community.
Well, modesty is your middle name on this story in particular right now. That's that story where you had a career-ending injury. How bad could it have gotten? And because you kind of like glossed over it. You were operating at a fire. Tell me how tall was the building?
3 stories. I was on the roof, fell through an open shaft.
Okay, let's stop there. So,
okay.
Your experience and the fact that you went to a lot of fires in that community in Queens. When we talk about deviating from the way the book is written, this is something that all firefighters have to do at some point in time. How bad was it up on the roof for you? And was it a situation that you've been in before, you found yourself in before, where the roof was that smoky and visibility was that low?
Yes, I've been in similar situations, but it was a situation that everything that could go wrong kind of went wrong. You know, we had a covering officer, and communications weren't being responded to properly. I was calling out, some calls for certain things, and got no response. So I felt that it was necessary for me to do something. So I was attempting to make the situation better, at least provide an opportunity in case things were needed to have it there at our disposal. And I've been in situations like that before. Normally, I would follow procedure. The way on the roof is the way off. I was off the wall. I could have done things better. I could have put the tool out in front of me and moved in a slower fashion. But it was of urgent need, I thought, because there was a collapse and exposure to, and the main body of fire was moving towards us, and it was just a chaotic situation. And I guess I got hastily moved along by my decisions, and as a result, I paid for it. But
yeah, so in the act of hearing that there was a collapse and you were trying to protect your fellow firefighters on the roof, and even those below, you put yourself at risk. Now, you stepped backwards or sideways, and you found yourself straight through a blind shaft. Is that correct?
Well, actually, I was moving forward towards the parapet, towards the front of the building, because what I did initially, I was second due. I repositioned the first two ladders against the bastard building. So you find the wall, you find the ladder, and you're gonna make it out of it. That's the way I went up along the wall. Mm-hmm. And then when I left, on my way back, I didn't know that there was a shaft in between, where I placed the ladder. So I kind of caused my own incident. Had I left the ladder there, evidently the first dude chauffeur saw that there was a shaft there and didn't place the ladder, because that's what I would have normally done, was place it, against the building. This way you find a wall, you find a ladder, But in this particular instance, I found the wall heading towards the parapet, but there was a shaft, and I went straight through feet first. I knew what happened instantly, and I braced myself for impact. My right foot hit first, and my second, I shattered both of them. I knew what happened, and I'm in the shaft, and I was able to lean into a window, which was the kitchen area, and I'm leaning against it, and it started to get crappy in the shaft. I had my mask on, so I figured, okay, boom, if I could take this window out, I can pull myself out and get into the kitchen and hopefully get out. And once I took my mask off, took the frame out, my mask let go, and took the whole sash out. And I'm looking at my mask like about 6 feet in the room, and I can't push off on my feet because they were gone. And I said, damn, I survived the fall. Now I'm gonna die from the smoke, because it started to really get bad in the shaft. But fortunately, Squad 288 got me out in like about 5 minutes after they get Mayday, So yeah, it was. I'm just glad to be here. Yeah.
Like as your story unfolds, I learned so much about you when I started hearing these stories, and how you take so much on your chin, and it's just happenstance. But I'm not sure if common folk can experience anything like that and still be cognizant of everything that's happening. So first of all, stepping off the roof, you notice right away you were falling 3 stories.
Oh yeah.
Then you notice your legs were shattered.
My feet.
Your feet were shattered.
Right.
Shattered.
Yeah.
And you still had the peace of mind to take another chance in trying to save yourself even further by breaking the window and pulling yourself through. I'm amazed about your cognizance throughout that whole thing. Most people would have either lost consciousness or all of that. You reflected on that time, and does it recur in dreams? Is there anything like that happens to you since that time? And what year was this, by the way?
That was 2003.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it took me about a year to learn to walk again and everything. I retired in 2004.
Okay. So let's go there where squad pulls you out, you were able to survive, you go to the hospital. What is on your mind at that time, now that you're in the hospital?
Pain, severe pain. And they could not stop the pain. I'd been hurt before. I never felt no pain like that in my life. It was like they couldn't stop the pain. They would shoot me up with everything, and they couldn't stop the pain. And then finally, maybe 45 minutes in, whatever they gave me, it was like woosah, man. It's like a release. I finally felt the pain go away. And I was able to reflect on everything and just think about what happened. But initially, it was just pain. It was like excruciating pain. It's like, I don't wish it anybody. I mean, childbirth is one thing, but but I think this is a little like right up there with it. It was like that crazy pain.
Okay,
But
now you
yeah,
survived.
mm,
You know you're alive.
mm,
You're thankful that you're thankful for that, of course.
mm.
Now, what's the secondary thoughts? Are you considering your job, your career? Is that on your mind at some point, even
The
with the
job's
pain?
not on my mind. What was on my mind was, will I be able to walk again?
Okay.
You know, that was my main concern. And I had a little problem with that because a few hours later, doctor comes by. I'm at Elmhurst Hospital, and doctor evaluates me. I guess he looks at my X-rays and everything. Boom, 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 and he says, "Don't look good, kid." He says that it don't look good. And I kind of like immediately fired him. And a buddy of mine happened to be in the room. Brian Malloy, he's down in Florida now. We spent a lot of time together. He kind of broke me in. A great dude. When people talk about there's no great Caucasians on this job, there are a few. There are a few. I'm telling you. And he broke me in the right way, taught me what I need to know, and we became pretty good friends. And his girl at the time was a nurse, a head nurse at Mount Sinai. And he called her and said, boom, Smitty's in trouble by the production. Because I had met her a couple of times. And so she talked to this guy, Stephen Weinfeld, who's head of orthopedic surgery at Mount Sinai. And he actually came down like 2 days later. And he looks at me, does the evaluation, boom, boom, boom. Then he says, you want to walk again? I said, you damn skippy. Those are my exact words. He says, it ain't going to be easy, man. I'll tell you. And he said, but I'll get you up if you really want to get up. And I said, yeah. So what he did was a miracle, because I had a little problem on my foot. I recently went to a doctor and they took some x-ray in my foot. And he said, whoever did this work on you was a genius, I tell you. And he was a young kid too. He was a young guy when he performed the operation. He's retired now. But what he did, he was out, he created the box and then he went outside the box. But what he did to my feet, he's like, because even doctors look at it, they said, it's a miracle you walk, So, so I've been fortunate, and a couple of times in my life, we went through some stories, but.
Yeah, because I want to go through a couple of those stories as well. But you said something about the doctor coming in, diagnosing you, telling you that, you're never going to walk again. How do you talk to people now about not always taking the doctor's advice or anyone's advice when they put a stake on where your life is going to be and what you have coming towards you? Is it important? And that, did you learn that lesson from that point on to always trust in yourself first, trust in a higher being? What did you trust in when that doctor wasn't enough?
Well, I'm fortunate enough to come up with a mother and father that was spiritual, first of all, and self-driven, second of all. And they always instilled in me and my sibling the understanding that God's got you, in the event that you get into trouble, he got your back, and he had their back because they all went through some trials and tribulation. So that was foremost in my mind that, this ain't it. This is not the end. You don't have to accept this man's word as the final diagnosis of how your life's going to be. So that allowed me to have the will to say, hey, okay, you're no longer going to be my surgeon. I'm going to find somebody else. And unfortunately, God, or maybe sex, happenstance or whatever, Malloy was there. And the message was sent to somebody that was in a position to assist me. And the result is I'm walking around now. But I would encourage anybody that feels that somebody's telling them something that they're not comfortable with and they want a different outcome to seek out as many avenues as possible to get to where they want to be so that they can have the quality of life that they deserve.
There's since that time, since your retirement, you found yourself afflicted with one of those words that we categorize with a letter. And I'm not talking about the N word. I'm talking about of what can happen when you have this so-called C word. It doesn't seem like there's always a positive outcome. That's somewhat similar to a death sentence to a lot of people when they hear this. When you heard that word first, cancer, can you tell me when you were diagnosed and what did you feel when this diagnosis came across your life?
Well, I don't remember the exact dates off the top of my head, but it was about a year and a half ago. My primary physician started seeing my PSA levels elevate, double. And my Gleason score was pretty high. And he says, you need to see some people. And so I did. And then they said, yeah, you got to do something about this because at the rate that is multiplying, even though I was up in age, they said, once it gets outside, it was prostate cancer. Once it gets outside the prostate and gets into your bone, it's not going to be fun.
The PS, before you go on, the PSA, that's an indicator of prostate cancer. And it's a level that men have to track and keep in check once they get past a certain age, 40 or so. Can you tell us what was the number that the doctors were looking at that kind of?
Well, mine was up to like 14, which they thought was elevated. It started off like 3, when they started getting concerned, 3, 4. And then it kind of doubled in a short period of time. And it was pretty aggressive. So basically said, you need to see somebody. And once I did, they gave me a few more tests. Then they did the biopsy and and they said, yeah, you need to do something about this. And I tell you, it's no fun. It's best if anybody's experiencing a problem to do it as early as possible. Because that was like one of the worst experiences of my life. That, just recovering from the biopsy, I had to be rushed back to the hospital because I had, I couldn't urinate, so that could be. And then I had blood problems and, it's hard to talk about, but these blood clots that they had to actually, remove, and I'm painful, man. I'm telling you, it's so listen to the doctors, get your second opinions, but don't play with it because I'm fortunate. We all know of people who weren't fortunate. I know a couple of my friends who didn't make it and didn't get treatment and should have. And then by the time they wanted to get treatment, it's too late. So it's nothing to play around with. We need to take care of our health as well as our minds, but mainly our health, because that's what gets you to the next day.
Well, yeah, because you allowed me the opportunity, and I love the fact that you were very you allowed yourself to be vulnerable and open to showing me, and I'm going to show a bit of that in a second, of the footage of what you had to go through day after day in your battle. And I needed to see it personally because I know it befalls a lot of men, especially men of color. And if I ever have to go through that, I wanted to have a peace of mind of what to expect. And I want those watching to see a little bit of that and perhaps gain some courage from you for sharing that. So we're going to take a look at that right now. So where we headed now?
We're headed to the medical center where I have my treatments. It's a 6-week process. Today's the last day.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much.
What is the doctors been saying so far?
So far, I haven't received any of the side effects that a lot of people experience. He says I'm doing well, and hopefully they'll get it all, and they'll check back in 3 months. They'll do another PSA test on me, and my levels should be down by then. And hopefully they got it all. They'll be able to tell then.
Now, they say black men experience this more than any other race. Is that?
That's true. They don't understand the reason why. It's just like black females. They have fibroid problems more so than Caucasian. But they don't have any real explanation as to why.
How you brothers doing, man? How you doing, man?
Okay, good, man.
Good. How are you doing, sir?
These two brothers, this is his last day. My last day. You got one more. Non-intrusive just surrounds you and gives you the radiation. You don't feel claustrophobic or anything like that.
This is somebody else's setup, but it's similar to your setup.
Right.
The table raises up, and breathe in under the machine.
And now he expresses it musically
Then the
himself.
machine would move around for treatment. So this heads up this end, and then this moves around.
And you don't feel it?
This is moving as it's delivering the radiation.
Wow.
So, looks like a mixer, like a mixing bowl, doesn't it?
Right.
One of those really
A
KitchenAid
blender.
mixers, yes.
Give us an update. How have you been feeling a year removed from your treatment?
To be honest, I feel as I did prior to the experience. I mean, I don't know if it was because of the doctors or catching it at the right time. I don't know what to attribute it to, but I feel good. I mean, I feel like I'm right back to where I was on the same path of trying to do the best I can for those I love and care about, and no pain, no ill effects, that most people experience, because you were there with me and you saw some of the guys that I talked to, and
My name is Cliff Boswell, and I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I never would have known I had prostate cancer if it wasn't for the fact that I had been taking my regularly scheduled doctor's appointment, and my PSA was elevated. And after that, I already had an appointment with my neurologist, so I came to see him as scheduled, and he ran some tests and found out I had prostate cancer in one section of my prostate. I did not feel anything. I felt normal just like I always do, but the fact that I was taking my regular appointments and follow-ups, it was caught in time. I spent 5 weeks of radiation, where I come in daily for radiation, and I'm at the end of it now, so I'll be doing seed transplant in about 2 weeks, so I can finish the process. But even after I finish, I'm still going to do my regular follow-ups as scheduled. It's very important as black men to make your appointments and keep them and do your follow-ups. Without those, who knows where I would be at this time. So I just thank God that I was able to do what I was supposed to do and follow up and do my follow-up and exams like I was did. I know early in my career, I very seldom went to the doctor. I always pushed it aside. But as I got older, I saw the significance of going and getting checked. So I make it a point to make my appointments and follow up with it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Did it run in your family?
No, prostate disease is not running in the family. There's no one that has it before. So, why I got it, I don't know. But just thank God it was caught in time that I was going through the process, and now I'm cancer-free.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.
when I kept a conversation open with them after our procedure, and a lot of them were experiencing some things that I don't wish on anybody, you know. So I don't have that, fortunately. You know, they're working through it on their levels, you know, but I don't know, man. God had his hand on my shoulder my whole life. That's all I can say, man. You know.
Well, you have to attribute it to something, and God is probably the first place you want to look. Tell me about your parents. Tell me about, I used this comment to you before, and I'll say it now, where, and I used it on one of my other episodes, but it came from you. You know, the word fighter. It's in the title of the occupation you chose and you retired from. How long have you been a fighter? And did your parents teach you that? Did your community teach you that? And take us back to the very first time you ever felt like you had to fight.
Well, my father taught me that. You know, I was the oldest boy. of three, and grew up in Bed-Stuy as a young man. I guess my father must have lost his job or something, because we went from a brownstone on Jefferson Avenue to South 3rd Street, between Keep and Hooper and Williamsburg, 353 South 3rd Street. 6-story walk up. And there's no reflection on Hispanic people, whatnot. But we were the only Black people in the area, you know. And once they found out I couldn't speak Spanish, I fought every day. You know, I mean, I fought my battles, I fought my brother's battles. You know, I had to take care of my sister. So it's like, it was a little tough, you know, but I was built for it, you know, and I got the scars to show, you know. We went through over a couple of things. But yeah, so my dad told me, you know, like, as long as you fight, man, you know, as long as you fight back, you know. And then that's when I got the bug to become a firefighter, actually. Had I not experienced those types of things, my career choice probably would have been different. Because being in that 6-story walk up in Williamsburg during the early 60s, a lot of fire duty, and a lot of fires in the area, a lot of fires in that building. And that, you know, and something I'm doing, I talk more elaborately about it, but my family was saved literally twice, unconscious, you know, brought out unconscious. And I happened to go in and out of consciousness, see snotty-nosed guys grabbing my family, taking us out of this building. And I said to myself at that point in time, if I ever get the chance to do this, I want to do it. And then Ali Pasha, I met him. He's on 30 Truck. We grew up together and we became close, and we took the test together and we became firefighters, you know. So so it was an experience, but I've always been a fighter, you know. I mean, anybody that made it over the Atlantic Passage, you got that fight in you, because in order to survive in that slave ship, you know, and with what we had to endure, and then the other suffering that ancestors had to go through, it builds up something in you, in your DNA, that says, like, look, you gotta fight. You gotta fight. Once presented with an opportunity to make life better for you and yours, you gotta do it. So.
Well, yeah, you have to, but I mean, you know the credo, when we run in, everybody's running out. Mm. So majority of people don't necessarily follow that credo that you grew up with, having to fight. Even in today's time, it seems like there's less and less people built the way you were built. But before I jump, tell me a little bit about what were some of the fights like? Were gang related? Because you were the minority in your community back in that time. Tell me just a couple stories about what happened to you back then and why you had to put up your dukes.
Initially, it was just a not understanding different cultures, and being that I was not Hispanic, it became a problem, whereas they just didn't like you, I pretty much fought pretty much every day. When the school bell rang, I went to 258. When school bell rang, boom, I had to hit the gate, And then this one particular day, I get caught in my own building by 3 guys. And, I know I'm gonna lose, but we duking it out. And I flip a guy, and it's marble floor, and there's some glass there. And I know I'm getting my butt kicked, So all I could do was just keep smashing his face into this glass. Other guys are beating on me. And then finally it pulled me up, and there's a marble ledge around the wall. And they spun me around, and it was lights out. I still wear the scar here today. I was knocked out, So it was that type of thing. And then I had younger brother James. He's in Jersey now, but he got into it with a cat bigger than him, bigger than me actually. And so he kept picking on him and whatnot. So they used to have these festivals, whatnot. So we went out and I told him, show him to me, like when you point to him, show him to me and then run, run back to the building. And so like I said, you keep messing with my brother, buddy, and he says, yeah, so what? And I came from the floor, boom, and I dropped him and ran. But he respected me. After that, we kind of got along, I said like, all right, cool. Yeah. So, I made some good friends there. And then I met Posh and he introduced me to some other black cats in the neighborhood. We started jitterbugging with the Marcy Chaplains and got into some other stuff, some other trouble, and we almost didn't make it to the fire department for an incident where I got jumped in the Bushwick Project. But anyway,
I know. Well, listen, it's statute of limitations going on. But did you say the name? The name was the Jitterbugs? Is that was the name of your?
Yeah, that's what it was Marcy Chaplin, but they called it jitterbugging back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I asked you to bring up those stories because there are a lot of black people that go into the fire department and are under the same type of duress where they are the minority. And whether they like it or not, people may like them. They may go to another situation, people don't like them. And back in the days, I wouldn't advise it now, but back in the days, did you have to fight when you walked into the fire department, being that you experienced that before, where from your own community when you were younger? Was it similar back then? Tell me what the 70s, 80s looked like in the fire department.
Well, I was fortunate, to be honest. I went to a firehouse and we were busy, first of all. A lot of cats were senior cats that were in the Vietnam or some sort of military service. So they worked along black guys. The bosses was superb because they were chasing fires. So they that's all they wanted to do, And so I only had one incident. I don't want to mention the name. But he didn't like me when I first got there, and he was like, they call him Cactus. I'll leave it like that. He didn't do much around the firehouse, but but he didn't like me. And, he kind of put it on me. He said some things like, I ain't gonna get into it. But the closer we got to my getting on probation, I just whispered in his ear, I'll see you when I get on probation. Kept saying that. I will see you when I get on probation. And the closer I came to getting on probation, he wanted to be my friend, but that didn't work. And when I got on probation, he wanted to transfer. I leave it like that.
All right, so he was testing you your whole probation.
My whole probation.
Which is a year, right? So
right.
When your probation was coming up, you said he tried to make friends with you.
Yeah.
Wow. But I'm just saying, he
said, Smitty, I'm only joking, Smitty. I'm only joking. We break everybody's chops. That's what we do. You got thin skin, that sort of stuff. I said, nah, Mark. Oh, I said, no, it's going to happen, so it happened, But
all right, so it happened. So just for the people at home, back in the day, things like that can happen. So without it didn't happen in my era. I came in 2005, but they call it going down to the basement, and whoever comes up first,
right.
Was that the same scenario? Did you go down?
Same scenario, and the bosses stayed out of it, because they knew, like this guy's unnecessarily being stupid. And we had to work it out. If we couldn't shake hands, and I wasn't ready to shake hands at that point, So, and to be honest, just before I left, before I got hurt, I had an incident. But we became best buds after I got hurt, But anyway, it is what it is, man. I mean, when you work in close environments like that, people are going to bring out their inner emotions and their inner feelings about what they think about you as a human being, And the majority of the cats are cool. but you're always going to find some people who, for whatever reason, feel that you're not worthy, or even though I think I was one of the most highly decorated guys in my house, but certain people, because like when I first got there, the lieutenant said to me, "How did you find out about this job?" And I was 136 pounds. I was nothing but, I had no body weight, no body fat or nothing. I was in the greatest shape of my life. And he says to the captain, Captain Rowley, he says to him, "I want him in my groups." He was a recon ranger, a tough dude, He says, he looked at me, he didn't like me first out the gate. "How you find out about this job?" And I want him in my groups. And he put me in his groups, and after like maybe 2-3 weeks, we were best buds because we were fighting fires, and I did the job, And so I think being a busy house with guys that will pretty much, once they see you can do it, get off your back, and let you help you become, because we were a training house. We trained all the time. We were busy. So, we got good at what we do, and we had all types of buildings. We had roll frames, Queen Anne, high rise, taxpayers. We had it all, so we were able to get different type of experience. And after each job, the boss would take you aside and train you, or the senior guys would take them aside. This is what you did wrong. This is what you should have did. Boom. So it was a great learning experience for me. And I was fortunate again, but blessed by God, to be placed in that place, because I got to place somewhere else where, so
Right, so
I might, so I just say, look, I'm just glad to be here, man. I'm gonna continue
listen,
to
it's
give
beyond,
back as much as I can.
glad. It's beyond glad. I mean, fortune, blessed. There's a lot of reasons why you're here and why you're still doing what you're doing. I want to let people know I actually got a chance to go with you to your firehouse. Now, you're almost 20 years removed, but you're still like a legend over there. Like, I watched the young people, black, white, whatever, they were all there, very respectful of you. That's kind of a career that a lot of us wish we could have at the end, where you're still remembered in a building that you no longer have to respond from. How did that feel? How does it feel going back to your firehouse these days and having the air of every young firefighter? And I even saw one who you worked with, who was in tears giving you a hug. He didn't expect to see you that day. How did that feel? How does that feel?
Well, I never lost touch with them, because we lost a couple of guys there. And my example to the young guys was, you show up, you show up. We lost guys, and we go to the gravesite every year. I show up.
All guys who gave supreme sacrifice. Like Captain Wayne Smith, he's a great guy. Pickford, Corley, Bobby Dayton. He actually died at the volley out in Long Island. But these are some great guys that I work with, and taught me everything I know. And as a result, I was able to, hold my own when it came to a fire. And I appreciate everything that they taught us. Sorry that they're not with us any longer, but hey.
Did you do your job thinking that one day you could be on this wall as well?
Well, you don't think about that, actually. You don't think about what could happen. You think about what you got to do at that moment. And you're always in the back of your mind, anything's possible, but you hope for the best. You try and, follow the rules. And I always thought that this job was like 10% skill and 90% luck, so, if you're lucky, you make it. Sometimes your luck runs out, and unfortunately, you don't. But, you don't think about it. You got to do what you got to do. You got a job to do, you got to do it.
And they respect that. And I'm down in Maryland now, but I still go back up there. And, for certain things, I show up, and they respect that, because, those guys are close to me, and they need to be remembered and honored. And the families love me, you know, because when we were together, we spent quality time together. And there was no animosity with that particular group, you know, and that kind of rubbed off on the younger cats. They saw the respect that I got from the senior guys and from the families to say that, yeah, I'm always welcome, you know, and giving respect due. And not to mention what I did as a firefighter, you know, so yeah, it is what it is.
Did you know he was a cancer survivor too?
Nah, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Just had my last treatment November 24th. Yeah.
So look at so you just be in those eyes. All right, cool. I like that. Still with a smile on your face, man.
Things worked out for me, you know. Didn't work out for a lot of people I was there with, but you know, I was fortunate, you know.
Plus,
didn't take too much out of me.
No, yeah, look, you're a fighter for us. That's all you do, man. Just put in the work.
Yeah, try.
Yeah. All right. Listen.
I've been blessed. I count my blessings.
What do you look forward in your career now? What do you have plans?
Listen, man, if I could do half as good as he did, that's a blessing all of itself. I mean, we all know it's a dangerous job. You know, you gotta keep your mind sharp. You know, you gotta keep your head to the ground. So, honestly, if I could just make an impact in my community, you know, help out the people who are trying, people like me who are trying to get a job as well. You know, pave the path like this brother did. You know what I mean? And then of course leave that stellar reputation. You know, it's all about passing it down, I guess.
Exactly.
So, anything you can do to help with that, that's a beautiful thing. And on top of that, this job in and of itself, I mean, it's just
a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Anytime you can help somebody.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I literally get paid to help other people. So that's like some people they try their hardest to do that. When I go to work and that's already done. Right. So you know, it's a beautiful feeling, and if I can get other people, any and everyone, you know, but especially ones who look like me, to share in this, you know, that's a win-win-win on all levels. You know what I mean? So. Like I said, I see him do it, you know, and look at him, you know, stellar career. So if I could just do something like that, if I could imitate that in any degree, any capacity, you know.
I tell you, it's a great house too.
So Duery, so what's your message to the junior man about right now? They back there cooking the meal. What should he be doing now?
Well, he's got the housewife, so he's cool. If he didn't have the housewife, he should be back there helping out. He knows, yeah.
You know, you gotta run back and forth. I'm too junior, so you know, there's no passes. I actually gotta run over there right now, make sure you know I'm doing the right thing. So I'm about to put this back there, show my face. You know what I mean? Of course, always.
Right. Take care of yourself.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir, man. You since retirement, since your therapy and recovering from cancer, you have taken on other endeavors, and it seems like you want to start telling our history in the New York City Fire Department. Let me know where did this start, and what are you up to today?
Well, it started with people like Arnie Hyacinth, Jim Lee, Vinnie Julius, Tempro, John Ruffins. My introduction to the fire department and the Vulcan Society, and just learning about the history of what these guys had to endure and how their emphasis was always to make it better for those coming behind them. And I was fortunate enough to draw close to these individuals, and their hearts were pure. You know what I mean? They not only talked the talk, they walked the walk. They fought the battles. Because of Vinnie Julius, they no longer use hoses on protesters, peaceful protesters, black or white, you know, because of what he did. You know, then guys like Jim Trempro, who gets the Gordon Bennett Medal changed from the racist guy who hated blacks to a person who we all respect, you know. So it's like, I don't know. It's just my feeling is that there's a lot that needs to be done. I really want to speak about something that I'm getting ready to do to speak to the younger individuals. You know, I'm working on it now, like sort of a call and post or something. I'm just want to send out a call to action, because the young people our history is not being expressed, or we're not being immersed in our history of the Vulcan Society and the struggle that we went through, and we're losing that. And that's what kept us together. That's what kept us strong. That's what gave us the force to be able to deal with the craziness that not only we're going through now, that's going to get worse, as time goes on, because these guys already got their mind made up. They don't want us here, period. In this country, in anything, so it's like once we stop banding together as we did in the past, then we're more vulnerable. When we start pitting ourselves against each other, you're not this, you're not that, blah, blah, blah. But once you get melanated skin, you're all in the same boat. You got to fight the same fight, because they don't like you because you're from here or there. They don't like you because of the color of your skin. So we start from that, and then we start to reinforce each other, and then we can make some positive changes,
Well,
which
yeah. I try to tell young folks, this is an occupation where you have to live with each other. And I always see it as when the Black family moves to the white neighborhood, the property value goes down. When there goes the neighborhood is the same. So
right.
When you move into a firehouse, you can somewhat have that same reaction from those who are taught and trained to see you as devaluing their space. How do you view the fire department now? Do you feel like it's like head and shoulders above when you came on, or you feel like it's the same old pattern of divide and conquer, and they're going to try to find every means to keep us off the job as possible? How do you feel? Are you optimistic in some way, at least?
Well, I have 2 points of contention. One is, first of all, it's economics. This job to a lot of people is an economic windfall, and they're preserving it for their cousins, their nephews, their nieces. And, I can understand that, because every people should take care of those that they're responsible for. So I understand that, but not at the point of where you want to restrict somebody else just because of the color of their skin, or make it harder for them, or make their experience, once they get it, hard. That part of it. The other part is, as far as, is it better? I've always said that the fire department is a microcosm of society. You're going to get those cats that are going to come in there based on their upbringing and their associations, that will react to you based on their perception of you and your people. And you could see the attitude, the climate of the country today. You could see how brazenly they are displaying their disdain and dislike, which I feel is sad, because this could have been the greatest country in the world, had they embraced us when we were willing to embrace them after all what they did to us. We were still in a position to, if allowed, make this the country it was supposed to be. But they'd rather let it go crumble than have us as a part of enjoying what it should be. So I don't think the job is any worse than it has always been. Ask Wesley Williams' family, his children, and what he had to endure, and the people that came behind him, but it's not as blatantly physically abusive, but it's still, it's a long way to go. And quite a few people have mentioned to me the only way to change it is to study and to move up the ranks and start making policy and decisions and enforcing it, So I think that's where the emphasis needs to be put right now. Everybody get in the books and start making policy decisions as a captain, as a chief, as a commissioner, and so on and so forth.
Well, you're a torchbearer. You know, I mentioned just everyone that comes on this podcast, the people that we speak about, all the names that you just mentioned, they all carried a torch, and some of them are still carrying the torch at their later ages. Are you optimistic in any way that, or do you have trepidation in any way that the next generation, the generation that's on the job right now fighting fires, do you see the urgency in them to carry the torch, to learn the history in any way about where the shoulders that they're standing on? Do you think they're aware of it?
A black man with a woman without trepidation is a fool. You know, you gotta look around.
Okay.
You gotta see what reality. Once you see reality, you know, there's a chance that you might be able to deal with it and manipulate it and mold it to what you feel you want it to be. I looked at some of the younger cats on the job now, and I said to myself, the potential's there. The potential's there. The drive is there. They're woke. They understand. They're trying to do what's right. The thing that troubles me is the fact that the passion is individualized and not a collective movement, you know. And I feel that leadership is the key.
So when I asked you about an organization started 82 years ago, the Vulcan Society, how has that shaped you? Is that something that were attracted to early on in your career? Was it something that you came to later? And why would you recommend this organization still continue and grow? You know, and this is a facetious question, so I'm not even questioning it myself. I'm just asking you, so that you, if there's a younger member watching or younger Black firefighters watching who don't understand the concept of organization, perhaps you can explain it to them eloquently more than I can.
I'll try. Prior to becoming a firefighter, I never saw a Black firefighter. You know, I never interacted with one. Even the ones that saved me, you know, weren't Black, you know, and my family. So when I'll tell you a story. This is how it starts. I passed the test. I was working at Transit as a bus operator out of East New York, and took the test. Me and Ali Pasha, we took it together. We grew up together, like I said. Then Pasha and I kind of separated. We weren't in contact with each other, but I was in contact with a fellow bus operator. Actually, he was my boss, a dispatcher. His name is Kilgannon. He wound up going to 123 truck. But we took the test together. I scored a little bit higher than him. And we both said, yeah, we're going to fire department, buddy, put up. And I went on vacation. I come back. Kilgannon said to me, Smitty, you know, yeah, I'm going down to headquarters tomorrow. Today's my last day at Transit. And I'm saying, so congratulations, you know, good for you. And in my back of my mind, I said, what the hell happened to my number, you know? So I get ready to go ballistic, and I go down to Livingston Street where headquarters was at that time. And yeah, I felt pretty good, you know, because the guy's name was Smith, Warren Smith, uncle. Was the lieutenant down there for candidate investigation. Orman's brother, Orman Smith's brother. And so I felt pretty good.
We heard about him in the last podcast with Andrew Beard, but let's give him some more flowers. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I said to myself, all right, this is going to work out great. They're going to figure out what happened. So he goes in, he pulls out my folder and whatnot. He says, Smitty, you ain't gonna like this. He says, your numbers passed a while ago. Wow. And he says, your folder's empty. All my information was gone. So he says, you know, it happened. I don't know what happened. All I can tell you is you can go down to 49 Thomas Street, which was personnel at that time, and see what they could do. So I go down to 49 Thomas Street, and a bunch of people that don't look like me were saying to me, and the person that came to me and said, like, best I could do for you is put you on the back of the list. And that's when I went crazy. They had to carry me out the building.
Wow.
You know? And in the back of my mind, I was listening to Lieutenant Smith's words, and he said, there's an organization that might be able to help black candidates. So I go down the hall and I see Arnie Heiss and Jim Lee and these cats, and I'm talking, and they said, they got you pretty much. Your information's gone. There's nothing we can really do. We'll try and fight for you. He said, the best thing you could do is if you know somebody in politics. And I was doing some work for Ed Towns. I was putting together a newspaper for him. And I told him my situation, and he wrote me a letter, and I was in the next class, And that's how I got on the job, Yeah. And that story, a lot of people have gone through that same experience when they go down to headquarters, or they don't get the information in timely fashion, and their numbers passed over, and then they want to put you on the end of the list, which means you won't get hired at all.
So right before you retired, there was a lawsuit in place to handle such situations like the one you had ran into 20 years before. And it was still happening to the point where the numbers for Black firefighters had dipped below 3%. Is that what you're talking about when you speak of organization and the power of the organization? Because folks like the Vulcan Society, and Vulcan Society specifically and primarily, fought against the discrimination. And the numbers today have tripled, almost quadrupled since that time. Do you think that young firefighters understand the situation that the department was heading towards? Or do you think that kind of blinded by the fact that there's more Blacks on the job now, and trepidation is not in their bloodline anymore?
Well, I myself, Mike Marshall, and Johnny Combs, Paul, we were very instrumental in that lawsuit, and along with Levy Ratner, and we were able to articulate to them the mechanisms that the job and society utilize to disenfranchise young Black men and women, people of color, period, from becoming firefighters. So we were successfully able to speak to that issue, and as a result, ultimately win. We didn't get everything that we wanted or felt would be necessary to totally change the numbers in a proper proportion of the people that should have been allowed to become firefighters. But yes, I do feel that the younger generation, for whatever reason, that maybe they're experiencing things that are different than what I experienced or my generation experienced, or they didn't get the nurturing that I got. Because when I came on, and those of my ilk, they were able to be married to a sponsor, or someone who oversaw them and spoke to their needs and taught them the history of the organization, and gave them that ethic to want to be a part of something, so that those coming behind you can stand on your shoulders, because we were standing on their shoulders. Mm-hmm. So that's something that concerns me today, that young men and women need to, you're only as strong as those that think like you. If you're like mind and you have the same goal, and the goal should always be to uplift our people. If you have that goal, then you should find a way to work together, and anything necessary, because Malcolm said it simple. He said, Black people are going to have to come together. He says, society's going to make it that way. They're going to, and we're living in that day and time where they're going to make us come together, get rid of all our little petty, grievances, and realize that these people are for real. They don't want you here, and they're never going to treat you fairly unless you stand up and be willing to sacrifice all. And I don't think that a lot of us are feeling that. I know the generation that brought me up, they were ready to give it all. And a lot of them did, So until we get back to that, we're going to experience the type of harassment and inappropriate treatment that we're receiving as a people, not only in the job, but in life,
1 second, because I want to give a quick. We're almost done. I wanted to give an illustration of something
About the firefighter.
Oh, it is over.
I know the court was looking for you.
Yeah. So, all right. I don't have it. All right. So I don't have it on my helmet, but normally we have a large piece of a rubber band, and we hold in it something that speaks to what you talked about. It's called a chalk.
Mm.
First, explain what a chalk is. You're a much better firefighter than I was, so explain what a chalk is.
Stop. A chalk, it's a piece of wood. It could be wood or, another solid object formed in like a pyramid fashion. The purpose being, when the truck company forces the door, that you chalk the door with it. That's where the name comes from. You chalk the door, and that allows the door to stay in that position so it won't close behind you. So that's what it was used for. And mostly truck guys would have it in their helmet along with a flashlight,
Now, yeah. And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because what you're talking about is you're holding the door open for those coming behind you. So symbolically, the chalk and what you guys did with the Vulcan Society in forcing the door open, one, to allow the New York City, the mayor and the fire department to hear the gripes that you had, and then allowing so many Black firefighters the opportunity of a lifetime to get on this job. I believe it's a symbolic tool that we all should have as Black people when we enter a force that we're such a low minority in it. Is that a message you want to give to the young folks now, that they should chalk that door?
That's a great analogy. I never thought of it that way, but I'm glad you did, because you're a very thoughtful person. And yes, I would definitely say that become a chalk. You become a Vulcan Society member, become a chalk. Do the due diligence, do the work, heavy lifting necessary to keep that door open so that others can benefit from your service and your sacrifice, and never forget those that came before you. So yes, become a chalk. That should be our new slogan.
Well, as we close, I always find it amazing when I speak to young firefighters and I ask them, how long do you think Black people have been on the New York City Fire Department? And a lot of them reach back to the 70s, the 80s. Some say, the 60s, they started coming on. And they don't realize we've been here since 1898 with William H. Nicholson. What you're trying to do now in telling the history of Black firefighters, explain what you're doing now and some of the projects that you have on deck.
Well, actually, it goes back to Molly Williams, who was a slave at one point, and she was the first Black and the first female to become a firefighter. And I bring her out. I bring attention to her struggle and her accomplishments in a documentary that I'm presenting now. I'm in the process of being edited now in Atlanta. But we have such a story to tell. Wesley Williams, those guys, and their struggle and what we've what we contributed to this country and to the fire service. Like a lot of people don't know the pole in the firehouse. You know who came up with that?
A black man.
A black man. Engine 21 in Chicago.
Yes.
You know. So I mean, you know, those type of things like the fire extinguisher. You know, I mean, it's mind-boggling that we've done so much for this country to save this country from itself and try and make it that perfect union that it's supposed to be. And the fire service the same way. When we come in here, we don't come in there looking to take nothing or make it worse. We come in there to make it better.
Mm.
And the majority of us have done just that. You know, the thought is that my project, it speaks to the experience similar to what you're doing, the life story of the introduction into the fire service, your contributions, your challenges, your accomplishments. So I'm creating a platform where those stories can be espoused and can be displayed so that other people might be able to gain something from it. And hopefully, and once it's completed, I'll use it as a tool to point out it's not just a unique tool, our fire department, you know, our city of New York, but each and every place where we go, we have to go through the same struggles and unnecessary, you know, BS, and it needs to be put out there where expressed so that people can say that yes, it's a problem, but yes, we can overcome it too. And I thank you for doing what you're doing, and equally, I think that what you're doing will you know, at least open up the mind to what's going on in the fire service, and that every individual is going to experience something, and let them know that there's a place to go to in the event that you have something that you can't understand or can't lift, and you might need some help. So by doing what you're doing is providing that opportunity. I see that as a good thing. And I forgot to mention the project that I'm working on is called Our Community Heroes. And I think you can find on YouTube a little promo for it.
They're a group of people who, when tragedy and danger appear, jump into action to assist and or minimize the pain and suffering one might face.
Just saw little hands, like the hands of a child on the window gates.
At the tip of those individuals who put others' needs before their own are the members of the fire service in this great nation. Fire service, what a noble profession. Unfortunately, there's an underbelly in the fire service that proves itself to be hypocritical. How can one put others before themselves, and yet those who would and could do the same because of the color of their skin be denied the opportunity to do so? And if they succeed to navigate the pitfalls and jump over the obstacles and hurdles, they're still treated with a cold shoulder as they attempt to join with them to come to the aid of people in need. How ironic.
Hello, I am Carrie Edwards Clemens, President of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters. I am here with Duery Smith, who has partnered with Crenshaw Heights Productions to bring an epic documentary outlining the Black experience in the fire service.
I have partnered with Crenshaw Heights Productions to produce an epic documentary to use as an educational tool and a recruitment avenue for people who are not aware of the accomplishments and achievements and challenges of African Americans in the fire service.
In order to create an epic documentary and give it the quality that it deserves, we need your support. You can show your support by clicking on the GoFundMe link on this page. We need your financial support to make this project a success.
My name is Duery Smith. I'm a retired firefighter, over 20 years in Ladder 136. I'm in the process of developing a documentary to explain the accomplishments, achievements, and troubles that Blacks have in the fire service. And I've been baptized by fire.
Like that. I like that. I appreciate you. Love you, bro. Peace.
All right, peace.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah. Barack Obama looking at me. What's up? What's up? I'm hiring hands, inspiring fans. I'm giving out jobs. I'm sketching up plans. Police, they beat me. We storm the same streets. We storm the same block.
much out.
Won't stop till we think it was possible.
You're a fighter for real. Man. That's all you do, man. Just put in the work.
Accomplices. Now we out popping. I'm getting money. The kids getting money. I'm dropping racks and racks in church on a Sunday. I get it back to back. Go to work on a Monday. White on white tracksuit, cause you know who ran it. We was hungover. South Beach was too sunny, yo. We out in Joburg. No sleepers.
Paved the path like this brother did, you know what I mean? And then of course with that stellar reputation, you know. It's all about passing it down.
Judge ain't never forget him for when it was trapped in that wet like a dolphin.
I found the wall, heading towards the parapet, but there was a shaft, and I went straight through feet first. You know, I knew what happened instantly.
No, you cannot buy that from no club. I'm a baptized. Let's get baptized. I'm a baptized. Let's get baptized. About to baptized. Let's get baptized. I'm a baptized. Let's get baptized.
I just whispered in his ear, see when I get on probation. You know, kept saying that. I would see when I get on probation. And the closer I came to getting on probation, he wanted to be my friend.
Adam and Eve done, apple eating thumb. Hit the gas and hit the gas. At the sex fifth with a religious sect to grab gifts. How you get money and act as if poverty's past tense? We see bad happens, but what happens to bad? We need your friendship, missionary, Beulah Hill Baptist. Not Fit County doing peyotes from a cactus. Alabaster flows out Cali with some Calabasas. Bad, put your up on my nose.
Like that
with
smell.
A sack of butter, just a sack of bones.
Says ode to
Sacrificial
1075.
Lamborghini, do the dash upon the road. Throw a stone like David, I got that Tom Brady on.
Yeah, you missed this,
Navy
man.
gun, case to join, case in point to that your neighbor. Look at your neighbor and say neighbor, stack up all your paper, pray for me, I say a prayer for you, be not forsaken, jump in the lake, let the water run over your face. We baptize people, now they breathtaking. Wait, I'm about to baptize. Let's get baptized. I'm a baptized. Let's get baptized. About to baptize. Let's get baptized. I'm a baptized. Let's get.